So many of our viewers have said, we understand how all this investment works, but what about our kids? We'd love them to be out there doing that with us now. Now, fortunately for me, I haven't got any kids and neither has Sarah. So I had to find one, and this is one here. This is Georgia. She's actually my niece.
Hello.
Lovely girl. The issue I've got with her is she's 21 years old, but she knows nothing about investing, but she does know about saving. So what's your view about investing money, Georgia?
I do think that investing is good to save for later.
Yeah.
But then I also think, what if I die?
Okay, there we go. That's a big cliffhanger. Is Georgia gonna die by the end of this video? You're gonna find out. So what we're basically gonna do tonight is I'm gonna sit down with Georgia and give her some of my thoughts about investment to see if there is a way that I can encourage Georgia to actually put money aside for the time in the future before she dies. And I have one really big technique that I think is hopefully gonna win the day for us. So stick around and you'll see what that is.
Yeah.
So basically that's the challenge I took on to kickstart Georgia into a life of investing for her future. What I want to do in this video is take you through the kind of things that I discussed with Georgia so that you can do the same with anyone that you know that you want to help get into investing for their futures. It's an area that I've always wanted to work on to help young people to do this kind of thing, and it's a real challenge, isn't it? Because you can't put an old head on young shoulders, however much we'd love to. We know we were young once, we were 21, and there's much more important things to think about than some obscure savings pot for my future retirement that may never come. As Georgia said a moment ago, she might die. That's her fear here, is that if she puts money away, she might never ever get to use it because she might die first. And in a way, I can relate to that. It sounded like a bit of a funny thing to say at the time, but reflecting on what Georgia was saying, I understood it. She's got more pressing things to think about, as all young people do. They want to get a place to live, an apartment. They want to spend money on cars and travel. How do we get them to think about their future self? And what better person for me to work with on this than Georgia? She's an amazing kid. They all are. That I know you're sitting there going, yeah, my niece is amazing. Everyone thinks their kids are amazing, or their nieces and nephews are, but she really is. She's got a stunning work ethic. She has got a full-time job working in a corporate environment, but she also, in the evening, works in a fast food establishment. She also helps her parents out in their business, and she was talking to me the other night about another thing she could do at the weekend to do some more work. And she's a real saver too. She's not just earning money and spending it at the weekend. She bought her own car cash, which is fantastic, and she's got a pot of cash that sat earning virtually no interest at all on the sidelines that she doesn't really know what she wants to do with. And the final reason why talking to Georgia about this was so important to Sarah and I is that Georgia has a real thirst for travel. She's 21 years old, but pre-COVID, so how old was she then? 17, 18? She went to Bali to do some volunteering and absolutely loved it and started to get the travel bug there. So we want to help her look at how she could structure her finances so she can scratch that itch of travel and do it more in the future. But it's a big leap, isn't it, of being a saver and saving for what she might need next week or next year or in 3 or 4 years, to trying to encourage her to invest in her future self for Georgia when she's 20 years older, maybe, than she is today. I've known for a long time, as has Georgia's mum and dad, that I want to have this conversation with her. And it's got to be at the right time. If you're 18, it's probably a bit too young to really grasp these principles. But at the age of 21, if you're already a saver, it was something that I think was really important to do. So let's not string this out. I'm going to go through the different areas that we focused on in this session with Georgia and with her boyfriend Rory. He doesn't have the money saved in the way that she has, but he's certainly got ahead and he's thinking well about his future, I could actually see a little bit of me when I was 21 in him. And I hope if he's watching this, he can think about how much what we discussed the other night can actually change his life. And I think it will. And do stick around, because at the end of this video, Georgia herself will tell you how it's changed her, if at all. So firstly, we spoke about what money is actually for. And we looked at this in 3 ways. Firstly, that money is there for the bare essentials of life. And that is making sure that you're healthy, that you're feeding yourself, and that you've got a roof over your head. And making sure that you've put money aside to enable that to happen. Secondly, is moving beyond the essentials to living a good life. I'm not all about saying to Georgia, live like a hermit so that you can save all this money. What I want to say to Georgia is just be mindful. So if you want to go away at the weekend and you know, go to a party or go to a music festival, whatever, do it, but do it intentionally. Don't just spend money and not know where it's gone. So the second area was just for that, enjoyment. The third area is all about investment, an investment in herself. Long-term investment for retirement. It can be short-term investment for maybe buying an apartment at some point or upgrading her car if she ever needs to in the future. Or it could even be to invest in her own skills. So she may be able to build up a pot of cash so that she can spend money on a course that she thinks she might need to improve her earning potential or her enjoyment of work. The next thing we did, which was fun, is we fantasized a bit. We fantasized about what retirement would look like. I asked Rory and Georgia to think about what their retirement would be if they were to retire in 20 or 30 or 40 years. And this wasn't about what's the most amazing retirement, we want a luxury yacht, we want this, we want that. This was fantasizing about what do you see retirement as actually being for you? And this was a fun thing to do. And if you're ever going to have a session like this with your child or your grandchild or your great-grandchild, make sure you include this bit because it's a bit of fun. You can see how they're seeing their future and how different in many ways it is to us because generations change. So after we looked at the positives of fantasizing for your future, I then hit them with some reality, and that is saving for retirement has changed significantly in the last 20 or 30 years. So when I look at my parents, they had that kind of watertight retirement where they had a final salary or a defined benefit scheme that they could retire with a really good income and not have to worry about the future. Now, for Georgia and Rory, things are going to be very different. Anything they retire on, they're likely to have to put the thought into how they save that money themselves. No one's going to do it for them. So I gave them the fantasize about your future and then you're going to have to pay for it. And because they fantasised about what they would do in retirement, the next question would be, well, how much money do you think you need to save to enable you to have that kind of retirement for yourself? Again, really fun thing to do for you because it's interesting to see how young people look at money. Georgia said that to have a really nice retirement, she would need to save £100,000. Rory said 240,000. Now, obviously, Rory is closer to a more comfortable retirement, but I did the calculations using the principles of the 4% rule and explained to Georgia that £100,000 in retirement would give her the princely sum of £4,000 a year to live on. She kind of shuffled in her seat at that point and thought, maybe I do need to pay a bit more attention here. Next area is we spoke about how much things really cost. And what I asked them to do was to give me some idea of any subscriptions they've got. Rory told me he's got a subscription to Netflix, which is £16 a month. He also has I've never heard of this before, but a subscription to a coffee shop for £12.50 a month, which I guess gets him coffee. So that's a total of £28.50 a month. Comes to £342 a year, and using the principle of the 4% rule, that means to just in retirement maintain his little coffee habit and his Netflix subscription, the next £8,550 he would need to save to make that happen. And that, I think, is a really visceral way of allowing people to really think about the costs and the money that they're spending. The way that you do this, using the concept of the 4% rule, is anything that you want, you multiply it by 25, and that will tell you effectively when you retire how much you need to save for that one part of your lifestyle in retirement. So now that I put the fear of God into them, we now needed to talk about investment. So, as I said, Georgia's great. She's a real saver. And we spoke about different buckets that she should be saving into. The first bucket is for short-term things. So what she needs in the next 2 to 5 years. So if she's looking at buying an apartment, she should be saving for that. If she's looking at travel in the next 2 to 5 years, she should be saving for that too. The next bucket we looked at was an emergency fund. And this is basically to build up a pot of cash should something bad happen. There's all talk out there about recession at the moment, so if Georgia was sadly to lose her job, has she got an emergency fund in place that would tide her over while she finds another job? Generally speaking, an emergency fund should encapsulate 6 months of your living costs. And then the third bucket is all about investing in future Georgia and future Rory. So where should these funds be placed? Important for me to say at this point, I am not providing you any financial advice here at all. I'm telling you about the conversation I had with Georgia and Rory. You need to flex this for who you're talking to, and also explain to them as you're going through it that you're not giving them advice. You're telling them what available options there are out there and let them make their own decisions for themselves. So with regard to the savings, at the moment Georgia's got her money in a savings account which I think was earning a 0.04% per annum. So already I explained to her that there are, with inflation going on at the moment and interest rates going up, some much better options out there. So she may well be looking at the market and seeing what she can do with that money. I recommend if she's going to be building an emergency fund for herself that she does the same thing. It needs to be relatively easy access, this money, so don't tie it up for the long term. And also I wouldn't think that she will be looking to tie it up into stocks and shares or bonds or anything like that. Keep it simple, and with interest rates being at a pretty good rate at the moment, there's a lot she can achieve with just a savings account. And then finally, with the long-term investment, we explained to Georgia our strategy, and that is low-cost index funds. We, throughout our life, Sarah and I, have shunned advice. So if somebody says, I've found the latest crypto coin you need to be investing in, I leave that to the crypto investors. Or this is an individual stock. I tried all that once before and lost money. We, Sarah and I, invest in low-cost index funds, and if you want to know what, we use Vanguard, and predominantly here in the UK we use f.i.r.e. Nothing exciting, doesn't need to be, because it's all about long-term investment. So having whetted their appetite about how they should be looking at saving money and investing money, they wanted to know the mechanisms from there. So at that point we discussed platforms, what a platform is, what investments are, and what the associated costs are that go with those, and spoke about some of the providers in the market. We also discussed tax, because I'll tell you what, there's nothing more exciting for kids to hear about than taxation policy. And we spoke about how tax can have an impact on savings. So advised them that they should be looking at cost-effective tax options for anything that they do. Also at this point, this is when I introduced a compound interest calculator, and what I'll do is linked underneath this video in the description, I'll just put the calculator I used. It's just one I found on the net. You know, it's like any other compound calculator, but it's really good. Plug in some numbers there and you can just see that the longer you leave money, the greater return it has. So I thought I had Georgia's attention pretty good as we went through this, but you know, sometimes more important things crop up.
Are they actually? Are you pranking?
So we're midway through a session. I thought things were going well. Although I seem to have lost full attention at this point. I'm hoping to get it back. I think, has John and Mairead got engaged?
This is Uncle Neil.
That's May, I believe. And she's just rung Georgia to tell her that John and Mairead have got engaged. So it's pretty exciting stuff. I'm hoping that we will be able to recover this and really get it back on track. But I think I am interrupting there.
I've got to go back.
I am interrupting the conversation a little bit, so I feel a bit. I feel a bit awkward now. So oh no, she's going. She's going. Let's get back to this. I had no idea how this would turn out for Rory or Georgia, but don't let me tell you. Let's hand over to Georgia now, and let's see what decisions, if any, she made. Right, got to be honest, it's been a bit gruelling, hasn't it, George?
Yeah.
It's been tough. You saw that Georgia was getting calls while that was going on. She had a lot to take in. We also were doing this with Rory, Georgia's other half, and it's been an education, I think, for everyone. So, Georgia, has your opinion changed on what we spoke about?
Yeah, it actually has.
And that's the thing. I didn't think this was possible. I didn't think it was possible to speak to someone at 21 years old, give them advice about what's going to happen when they retire, whenever that would be, and actually listen to it. Now, I'm sure all of you are thinking, yeah, she says that now. Let's see what she does in the future. Well, we're going to return to this. In a year's time, we're going to see whether Georgia has done what she says she's going to do. But let's think about 3 takeaways. What's the first thing that you've taken away from this?
I'm going to change what fund my work pension is invested in and up the percentage that I'm paying into it.
Yeah, so that is basically Georgia's got a pension scheme where she works, and it's very, very defensive. So you're going to look at what the other options are. I'm not advised on what those options are. Don't worry about that. But she's going to have a look at that and just open herself up to a little bit more risk because she's only 21 years old, and you're going to put more into it.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. Anything else?
I'm going to move my savings into a new savings account that's got a higher interest rate.
Yeah, so her savings at the moment, she's getting 0.04.
Yeah.
0.4%. So she's going to move it to something that probably will give her closer to 4 or 5%. Good thing about Georgia is she is a saver, so she's got a fund of cash there to move across. There's some real tangible benefit in doing that. And there was a third one as well.
Yeah, I'm going to make an investment to the world.
To the whole, she's buying the world.
Universe.
So you lot better look out. Georgia's coming after you. But this is where Georgia's scuppered this video a little bit, because I had a plan, because I thought we were going to get through this and she'd be saying things like, why am I even interested in this? And you know what kids are like. So what I was going to do was to say to Georgia, if she put 250 quid into a world fund that she would add to every month for the rest of her natural life, that I would match her first 250. So if you're willing to put 250 in, I'll put 250 in, and that'd be 500 quid starting you off in Vanguard. I thought that would get her over the line, but she's already there, so I'm gonna have to take that 250 quid off the table.
Oh, that's fine.
No, it's not.
You can have it.
No. Let's do that. We're going to get that in there. 500 quid, which in the UK is the minimum investment in Vanguard to open a Vanguard ISA account, which is similar to a Roth in the US. We're going to do that and get Georgia investing into her future. So thank you, Georgia. You've been a star.
Thanks for having me.
And Rory, who's not on camera, he's been a star as well. He's now... Come here a minute. Come here. So this fella... Here he is. Get him in. There we go. You can stand there as well, so we're all in it. This fella here, he said he's never going out again. My job has been done. He was spending money on coffee. He had a subscription to coffee. He's never going to drink coffee again. Water and bread is everything you're going to do. Have you learned anything special tonight that you thought you wouldn't learn?
A lot, to be honest.
Yeah.
There's a lot to take in, but a lot of useful information too.
He's good. He's saying all the right things. So, if you've got young people in your life, grandchildren or children, get them to watch this video and you can teach them exactly the same stuff. You've been watching To Go Rome. Say goodbye to everyone. We'll see you next time. These two won't, but me and Sarah will. Bye.
See you next year.
Bye.
Bye.
Nice one.